I noticed in your career this sort of arc where you're making great music, but you seem out of control and all these weird, turbulent things are happening off stage. And then there's the moment of where you go Hollywood and you seem, Courtney's got it all together and everything is cool now and there's nothing.
Yeah, I met this guy. I had this really, really psychotically bad boyfriend, and I just picked him from nowhere, just plucked him. He was like a total beta male, whatever. And then I made the mistake of letting him steal, I believe in cause and effect, so letting him steal all my money, and then while he was doing that, I basically was like the town hooker and just slept with whoever I wanted to, and then I made a major epic mistake, which is I let him produce a record of mine. And
America's Sweetheart.
Yes.
You said the record's a disaster.
Why? Disaster.
You know,
but you know what, you can tell a person by their failures. I've learned to accept it. I think Hold On to Me is a really good song. I think All the Drugs is a good song, so whatever.
Okay, so why is Live Through This such a great album?
I have no idea.
I mean, everything has to go right for you to create a great album, and
I think this record is the best record I've ever made. I took a
Nobody's Daughter is the best record.
Nobody's Daughter is it's more sophisticated than Live Through This, but it has the same primacy.
But I love Live Through This from the first time I heard it. And, not because I also love Nirvana, because I love this in particular.
Right.
This is fantastic.
Right.
And I just wonder what went right for that album to be so great.
We were just a tight band, and it was I was competing with Kurt Simpson melodicism. I watched him write Rape Me and Dumb in 20 minutes, and it really pissed me off. So I was competing with living with a man who didn't even like writing melodies. He wanted to paint, and boom, whatever. So we have time for 2 more questions.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
Okay, I know when Live Through This came out, you had a ton of respect.
No, I had a lot of people saying that Kurt had written songs on there, and if he had, I'd have been proud to say it, but he just didn't. I'm not embarrassed that Billy co-wrote some songs on this.
Wait, let's get just clarity on that. What was Kurt's part in Live Through This?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No. He came to visit the studio in Atlanta once, and the guy never once gave me any drugs, and all of a sudden out came the drugs for Kurt. Which really pissed me off, but I was back then. And then he sang backup on a song, on the song Live Through This, or Asking For It. And then the song Softer, Softer, he sang backup on that, and it was the one day that he was there, Francis. So.
How did you meet Kurt?
I met him in 1988 at a Dharma Bum show where I was doing spoken word. And he had a girlfriend that I thought was chunky, and I told him so. And he wrestled me.
He wrestled you?
Yeah, he wrestled me on a beer-soaked floor.
What was Kurt like around the house? Away from the dog?
A pig. But a very adorable pig. I'm a pig, too.
So, what was your last conversation with him like?
It was like getting him to rehab, and, no, it's worse than that. My last conversation with him was like, if he didn't do Lollapalooza, it was gross. It was gross. Like, Billy would make $11.5 million, and it was the last thing he wanted to hear. He didn't care. And I got totally put up to it. And the people around us were so evil. They were like, you guys are going to go broke. And I mean, when he died, he had over $38 million, and no one knows where that went. But in any case,
can you just tell me, where were you?
He was in Exodus.
No, when you were told that he was gone, where were you?
I was in the hospital in Exodus. I checked in because the day he died, I'm positive it's the day he died. The cops came into my room at the Peninsula Hotel and arrested me for this psychiatrist who had left his prescription pad there. It wasn't even a triplicate pad. It was just like a normal birth control pad. And they arrested me.
So what was your first reaction? Who told you?
Rosemary Carroll, the lawyer.
And what was your first reaction?
I saw her face, and I was watching the Cancer Channel that morning for some reason, and I just went, how?
Are you still grieving? Is that permanent?
No. Yes and no. It depends. mean, sometimes.
I mean, in the days after this happens, you're grieving this profound tragedy, and yet your album comes out, and people are like, she's an amazing artist in her own right. So you're having this amazing success at the same time when you're dealing with this amazing tragedy, or this horrible tragedy. How do you deal with that roller coaster?
Back then,
Yeah.
I just did a lot of drugs. I don't remember much.
And what is your understanding of why that happened?
Confluence of many things: genetics, bad management, stomach pain. If you can imagine Keith Richards having an intervention, you can't. Okay, so some 90s moralistic bullshit that just didn't work and stuff like that. But we only have about 10 minutes left, so you want to get in there.
I want to give you a chance to talk to people who say you have some part in this cocktail, this constellation of things. What do you
I
think?
had no part in it, and that's a ridiculous question.
I think it's a ridiculous sentiment, but you know that people think that.
I don't think very many people think that. I think you're talking about a very vocal minority of ass.
I agree with you.
But what I will say is that when you're a widow of a suicide, you always get, whether you're me or not, you always get some sort of blame, whereas widowers don't get quite as much.
Right.
So then there's a huge amount of personal guilt that I feel. I'm not any competition with chicks or something, but there aren't any. I'm the last bitch standing, end up.